Let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you looked at your life? Not the filtered version you post online, not the story you tell people at dinner, but the real version, the one that plays in your head at 2 in the morning when you can't sleep. Because most of us are walking around every single day carrying signs that something is deeply wrong. And we're so busy, so distracted, so exhausted that we don't even notice them. And the terrifying part? These signs don't disappear just because you ignore them. They grow, they compound. And by the time most people finally pay attention, the damage is already done. The relationship is already broken. The body is already sick. The finances are already a disaster. The sense of self is already hollow. So today I want to talk about the 7 signs that your life is quietly falling apart. Because the sooner you see them, the sooner you can change course. The first sign is something so common, so normalized in our culture, that most people don't even register it as a warning. It's the feeling that you are permanently running on empty, not just tired from a long week, but chronically, relentlessly exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. You wake up already depleted. You go through your entire day operating on whatever thin reserve you have left, and then you go to bed, and you wake up and it starts all over again. People call this burnout, and they treat it like it's just a productivity problem. Like if you take a vacation or change your morning routine, it'll go away. But chronic exhaustion isn't just a physical problem. It's a signal from every part of you, your body, your mind, your spirit, that something in your life is fundamentally misaligned. You are spending energy faster than you are restoring it, and that math will eventually catch up with you in a way that can't be fixed by a long weekend. When you feel that deep, bone-level tiredness that has been with you for months, maybe years, your life is asking you a serious question. What are you doing that is costing you this much? And is it actually worth it? The second sign is one that people often wear like a badge of honor, and that's why it's so dangerous. It's the complete erosion of your personal boundaries. You say yes when every single part of you is screaming no. You take on more than you can handle because you're terrified of disappointing someone. You reshape your opinions, your plans, your entire personality depending on who you're around. Because somewhere along the way you learned that being yourself was risky, that it made people leave or get angry or think less of you. And so you became endlessly adaptable, endlessly accommodating, endlessly available. And the price of that is your own identity. When you can no longer tell the difference between what you actually want and what other people want from you, you have lost something profound. A life built entirely around other people's comfort is not a life. It's a performance. And performances are exhausting to maintain. Eventually, the performer disappears entirely, and what's left is a shell that can't figure out why it feels so empty, even when it's technically doing everything right. Now here's the third sign, and this one cuts deep because it masquerades as self-awareness. It's the voice inside your head that never, ever lets you rest, the one that replays your mistakes, catalogs your flaws, whispers that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not disciplined enough, not lovable enough. Negative self-talk has become so common that most people don't even hear it anymore. It just runs in the background like a tab you never close. But here's what that constant internal criticism is actually doing to you. It's shaping every decision you make. It's keeping you from applying for the opportunity because it tells you you'll fail. It's keeping you in relationships that don't serve you because it tells you this is the best you can get. It's keeping you paralyzed in a life that doesn't fit because every time you think about changing, the voice reminds you of every time you've tried and fallen short. When your inner monologue is your greatest enemy, your life will reflect that war. The battlefield is internal, but the casualties are very, very real. The fourth sign is something people almost never talk about, because admitting it feels like a personal failure. It's the slow death of your relationships, not the dramatic kind, not the explosive arguments and tearful breakups, but the quiet kind. The kind where you realize you haven't had a real conversation with your best friend in 6 months. The kind where you're sitting at the dinner table with your family and everyone is looking at their phones. The kind where you're physically present in a relationship, but emotionally you checked out so long ago that you can barely remember what it felt like to be fully there. Human beings are wired for deep connection. We are not built to be isolated islands. And when our relationships begin to wither, when we stop investing in the people we love, when we stop letting people in, when we start choosing screens and distractions over actual human presence, something fundamental breaks inside us. Loneliness isn't just uncomfortable. Research consistently shows that chronic loneliness is as dangerous to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. If you are surrounded by people and still feel profoundly alone, pay attention to that. It's one of the most important signals your life can send you. The fifth sign is the one that most people rationalize their way out of, and it's this: your health is deteriorating, and you are treating it like an inconvenience rather than an emergency. Maybe you've gained weight you can't explain. Maybe you're dealing with headaches, stomach problems, skin issues, or back pain that has become just a permanent feature of your existence. Maybe you can't remember the last time you exercised, or ate a meal that actually nourished you, or drank enough water. Maybe you've been ignoring symptoms that you know deep down you should have a doctor look at. Our bodies are not separate from our lives. They are the vehicle through which we live our lives. And when we consistently neglect that vehicle, when we fuel it with junk and deprive it of rest and movement and care, we are not just making a health mistake. We are sending ourselves a message that we don't matter enough to take care of. Physical health is the foundation everything else is built on. When it starts to crack, everything above it becomes unstable. The energy you need to pursue your goals, the clarity you need to make good decisions, the emotional resilience you need to navigate hard moments, all of it lives in your body. Ignore the body long enough, and the whole structure collapses. The sixth sign is one that takes many forms, but at its core it's the same thing. You are living completely without intention. You're not making choices, you're just reacting. You wake up and you do whatever the day demands of you. You scroll because the phone is there. You eat whatever's convenient. You stay in the job, the city, the relationship, the routine, not because you chose it deliberately, but because you never made the choice to leave. Weeks turn into months, and months turn into years. And one day you look up and realize that a significant portion of your life has passed, and you have no idea what you actually want, what you actually believe, or who you actually are, outside of the roles and habits you've accumulated. This is how people end up at 40 or 50, feeling like they've been living someone else's life, not because anything catastrophic happened, but because they never stopped to ask themselves the most important question: is this what I want? Intentionality isn't about having your whole life figured out. It's about being awake to the choices you're making every single day and taking responsibility for them. When you stop doing that, life doesn't pause and wait for you. It just keeps moving, and it takes you wherever inertia points. And the seventh sign, the one that ties everything together, the one that is perhaps the most telling of all, is that you have stopped growing. There was a time when you were curious about life, when you read things that stretched your thinking, when you tried things that scared you, when you allowed yourself to be changed by new experiences and new ideas and new people. And somewhere along the way, that stopped. Maybe it was too uncomfortable. Maybe life got too busy. Maybe you got hurt and decided that keeping yourself contained was safer than expanding. Whatever the reason, you stop moving forward. And the thing about human beings is that we are not designed to be static. We are designed for growth, for challenge, for transformation. When we stop growing, we don't stay the same. We shrink. The comfort zone that feels like safety is actually a cage. The routines that feel like stability are actually stagnation. When you realize you've been the same person, thinking the same thoughts, doing the same things, having the same conversations for years without any meaningful evolution, that is a sign that something in your life has quietly, invisibly broken. Here's what I want you to understand about all 7 of these signs. They don't show up all at once, and they rarely announce themselves loudly. They creep in. They normalize. They become part of the background noise of your life until you can no longer hear anything else. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. It's not the sudden crisis that breaks most people's lives. It's the slow accumulation of ignored warnings, the 1,000 small decisions to look the other way, the daily choice to push it all down and keep going because stopping feels too frightening. But here's the other thing I need you to hear. Seeing these signs is not a reason to panic. It's a reason to pay attention. It is genuinely, deeply good news to recognize that something is wrong, while you still have the time and the capacity to change it. The person who has lost all their energy and acknowledges it can make different choices. The person who has destroyed their boundaries can learn to rebuild them. The person who talks to themselves with contempt can learn a different language. The person whose relationships are fading can choose to show up differently. The person who is destroying their health can decide today to begin treating their body like something worth caring for. The person who has been sleepwalking through life can wake up. The person who has stopped growing can choose in this very moment to start again. None of this is easy. If it were easy, nobody would be struggling. The work of building a life that doesn't fall apart is some of the hardest, most unglamorous, most uncomfortable work a human being can do. It requires honesty that is sometimes brutal. It requires patience with yourself that feels almost impossible to maintain. It requires the willingness to sit with difficult feelings instead of running from them, to make decisions that disappoint people, to be uncertain and keep going anyway. But I promise you this, the alternative, the life of ignored signs and accumulated damage, the life that quietly falls apart while you're looking the other way, that is so much harder. The pain of awareness is temporary. The pain of denial is the story of your entire life. So take a breath. Take an honest look. Not to judge yourself, not to spiral into shame, but to see clearly where you are, so you can make a real decision about where you're going. Your life is not falling apart. It is sending you a message. And the most important thing you can do right now is listen.